Hey Randy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Randy Price. I'm retired. I spent about 35 years in corporate income tax, working for a large Canadian gas transmission and distribution company, largely in British Columbia. And in the course of that job, I was also involved with Aboriginal relations. And that arose because our pipelines would often run across reserves. And after 1988, when First Nations people and bands got the right to levy property taxes, then we were directly exposed to Aboriginal governments. And I had to deal with this new phenomena of First Nations property taxation. So I helped the then federal bureau that was responsible for overseeing that. I helped them get it right and ensure that it was fairly done. And when I retired, the organization asked me to join them as a commissioner. So I'm a commissioner of the First Nations Tax Commission right now, and it is property taxation and First Nations GST taxation is expanding all over Canada. There's probably about 200 of the 630 bands levy property taxation or GST taxation on their reserve lands. So that is how I got involved, with Mason, and also through some work that I do at Price Waterhouse. And it was great to get involved with Mason, and here we are today.
Thank you. So, what does leadership mean to you?
Well, over the years, I've been very fortunate to be exposed to very good leaders. I think when I first started the company had about $10 million in sales, and by the time I retired, some 30 years later, it had $4 billion in sales, and it grew from internal growth as well as acquisitions. But all along the way, in order for that type of growth to occur, the entities had to be led by good people. And so I learned, as I went along from the people that I worked for. And by the end, I started out as a single person working in taxation in that smaller company. And by the time I left, I had some 40 people working for me across Canada. And then I had to in fact become a leader myself, and as I guided people to try and get the best out of them and help them develop as well.
Yes, thank you. What are some challenges of being a leader?
Well, some of the challenges, the biggest challenge is letting go of the innate desire to control. It's sometimes difficult to let people take the initiative and give them a lot of responsibility. But you have to do that, not only for their development, but also for your own sanity, because as you do more and more, you can't control everything, even if that's what you would like to do. It's just impossible. So things would tend to fail if in fact you try to exercise some type of controlling management style. And it wouldn't be good for the people that work for you. They would be very unhappy, and as a result they would not be as productive as they otherwise might be if they were given more responsibility. So that's the toughest thing to do in being a leader, is to let go, of some of that responsibility that you have to do things and do it on a timely basis.
Nice. So what are some benefits of being a leader?
Well, the obvious benefits of being a leader is, I mean, there's the obvious benefit of making more money than other people that aren't leaders. But I found, being accepted, in a senior management group, recognized as a leader, recognized as doing a good job, part of which was me, and in large part was the people that I had working for me, obviously, but just being part of a successful group of people, I found very self-satisfying. And of course, the remuneration that flows from success is kind of nice too.
Nice. What are some good qualities a leader must have?
Well, a leader obviously must be able to communicate, and in order to be a successful communicator, you do have to have some interpersonal skills. Otherwise, people, you're dealing with human beings, and they, would rather deal with somebody that was friendly, humorous, fair, and exhibited all the qualities of a human being. So I don't think you can be a successful leader and not have good interpersonal skills and be a friendly person. You can do it in the short term, and people will react out of fear, possibly, but over the long run, they'll probably drift away, and that leader then would be confronted with having to, infill their positions, and therefore they themselves wouldn't be successful at doing whatever they were going to do.
So, who's one leader that you look up to?
I have to say, one leader. There's a couple that come to mind, and they're both somewhat related because they both have interests in Aboriginal affairs. And one is Paul Martin, and the other is Phil Fontaine. And I know Phil Fontaine better than I know Paul Martin, but I've observed Paul Martin from afar, and I think he is an absolute super leader. Not only did he help Canada regain, tremendous financial footing, he is a nice guy. People will do things for him, and he certainly had figured out and got agreement, on the Aboriginal front with the Kelowna Accord. And it's unfortunate that he did lose that election, and Aboriginal relations and Canada are at loggerheads right now. Phil Fontaine, I think, was a superior Aboriginal leader, confronted many personal demons in his early life, overcame them, got a lot of education, and helped Aboriginal people through very difficult times. And I have a lot of time for Phil Fontaine and how he approaches Aboriginal politics and their relationship with Canada.
Nice. So, what advice do you have for up-and-coming Aboriginal leaders to succeed?
Well, I think obviously there's some level of education that is required, to ensure that they're qualified to do certain things, and also not only empowering that person in their own right, but it also gives them some credibility. I think that Aboriginal people would make great leaders, because I have found that Aboriginal people listen a lot more than non-Aboriginal people, and I think listening is a very important factor in being successful. And we don't listen enough, and the meetings that I'm at with dealing with successful Aboriginal people, they listen and evaluate situations and give the results and outcomes and their feelings very succinctly. And I think it's a wonderful quality of a person as well as a leader. And so that would be my advice, to ensure that somebody is educated as well as they could, to go out and listen to Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal views, and then come to their own conclusions in whatever field that they are leading in.
Nice. That's well said. That's all of the questions I have. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, I just thank you, Mason, for the opportunity to do this. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Randy.